Welcome to another edition of SALCC Updates, where we bring you news on the St. Louis Community College. My name is Nathalie Joile-Fanis, and I'm seated here under the historic salmon tree, famously known to our students as under the big tree. And we have seen a resurgence of campus life at the college with sporting activities, an open day for secondary school students, and De-Stress Day. De-Stress Day was an opportunity for students and staff to do exactly that, de-stress. Activities included yoga, salsa dancing, fun sports, and a trampoline. Let's take in some highlights. Our students were also engaged in friendly house competitions in cricket, football, and basketball. These competitions are still ongoing, but they have provided much relief for our students from the rigors of online learning. The college also hosted an open house for Form 5 students to have a first-hand look at our TVET programs, that is our technical and vocational programs. Students had the opportunity to visit our workshops, our hospitality unit, and our digital media program. They interacted with faculty and students from the various units and got some insights into the workings of those programs. The Creative and Performing Arts Unit also invited secondary school students to an exhibition and showcase of talent. The Hunter J. Faswa Library observed Library Week from April 3rd to 9th with a slate of activities including a visit to schools in District 4, distributing storybooks and engaging the young students in fun reading activities. That was certainly successful. The library also facilitated an exciting panel discussion entitled Young, Gifted and Black with host Vladimir Lucian, former lecturer at the South Louis Community College and a gifted writer. He was joined by panelists Chadia Mathre, Canicia Lubrin, Philbert K.O. Salton and Asher Smalls. Let us take in some highlights.
Welcome. It gives me great pleasure to host or moderate this panel of St. Lucians, extraordinary St. Lucians who are doing things just in different ways all over the globe. My introduction of the panelists, you will be introduced to them kind of throughout the sessions, but I kind of will take it from a more personal standpoint as well as speaking to some of their accolades. But you also have the beautiful flyers that Sir Arthur has created that tells you a little more about them. I'm going to start with how it looks on my screen. Asher Small, and his moniker is Smalls. Asher is a hip hop artist, a singer, just an artist creating in all kinds of ways. I'm sure it won't stop at hip hop. It will probably go into making videos and all of these things. He's based in Canada. He is also, interestingly, the grandson of Arthur Jacobs and the son of Barbara Jacobs Small, both who have played significant roles in arts and letters and so forth in St. Lucia. I don't think I knew him very well as a student, but I probably saw him in the corner of my eye rapping somewhere on campus. And that is how I'm acquainted with him. But he is making waves. I saw a song of his on Instagram and I woke up singing it one day. So I said I had to kind of have a conversation with him. And then this thing came up and I was happy to kind of have him be a part of this panel. K.O., Philbert K.O. Salton, who is a well-known name in St. Lucia, probably better known than mine will ever be. He's probably, if I would make waves, he'd probably make tsunamis. He's been there for a long time. I know K.O. from St. Mary's College. I think we also went to the same primary school, although I don't think I knew him there. But he's been somebody whose talent impressed me for a very, very, very long time. I don't know if K.O. remembers, but a very long time ago, a very young Vladimir Lucian started a small company, was trying to get the man who discovered Rihanna to come to St. Lucia, made contact with him and did not get the support I was supposed to get from the forces that be or the powers that be at the time. He was ready to come to St. Lucia. K.O. was going to be a part of that group of artists who would have gotten to perform, but he continues to do his thing and he's in Canada. I don't know if he's in Canada now, but he's between Canada and all over, wherever else he goes, doing his thing. Read the flyer for anything else you want to know. He also has a podcast, Solstice Podcast, which is one of the number one podcasts or the number one podcast in St. Lucia right now. So check him out and you'll get to check him out during this panel as well. Canicia Lubrin is a phenomenal poet, St. Lucian poet, who has been making, waves, tsunamis, whatever. All over the globe. You need to just Google her name. If you type Can, it'll probably say Canicia on Google. So you should check her out. She's the winner of the Wyndham Campbell Prize. And I want to point out something very interesting. Canicia is also a Bocas Prize winning poet. And that makes St. Lucia actually the dominant group of people who win the Bocas Prize generally. And also, we are the ones who dominate whenever it wins for poetry. So there's something that in terms of us and poetry that just everybody has to give respect to. Canicia has been based in Canada for a long time. She's a teacher, she's a poet, she's also a novelist, I think, with her debut novel coming out soon. Is it a novel or a book of short stories? I'm not sure. It's a novel, right? Short stories. Okay. Well, maybe there's a novel coming right after that. So welcome, Canicia. I'm very happy to have you here. Chadia Mathre, I came to know during my days as an undergrad at UWI. She was a year or a few years behind me. she just has had, when I encountered her, she just had this kind of phenomenal energy. As someone who was just making movements and really was extremely confident about it. And I later came to understand some of the stuff she's doing, which is multi-pronged. She is a publisher. She started her own publishing company called Wakote. She's also an entrepreneur. She's based, very interestingly for me, in Ghana, where she's been for a while. I think both engaged in entrepreneurial activities as well as schooling and just doing everything that she's been doing. I also did work with her once. I did publish an essay in her magazine, which was actually on Derek Walcott. So these are 4 really phenomenal people we have here. We're lucky to have here. And for the next hour or so, we're going to really get to hear some interesting things about them. I just want to kind of preface this panel by saying this is a panel. When I was asked to moderate, I thought it was a good time to look at how St. Lucians are making strides in the world. It both had to do with my own experience as a recent I don't know, initiate into diasporic life, since I'm now based in New York City. But also an awareness of what it means, because so many St. Lucians leave, and we're actually encouraged to leave. We go even just over to Trinidad to study, and we make waves wherever we go. So I wanted to kind of zoom in on that experience of young people, especially traversing the globe, going into these strange societies, these new societies, and actually rising to the top of it, actually just really being able to thrive. And interestingly, through creative arts, which is not usually what we're encouraged to pursue. So I'll stop there without going on too long. These are our panelists. This is the kind of discussion that we're having. And I really hope that we have a lot of young people in attendance, along with not so young people who probably still have dreams of doing some of what they're doing, or just want to listen in. But I'm happy to be here, and I'm sure they're happy to be here. And you who are viewing are actually very lucky to be here in their presence. So welcome attendees, welcome panelists. Let's get to know each other, all right? One of the first things I wanted to ask you guys is, there's this book I read when I was in my teens, and I always liked it. I kind of called it The Portrait of the Artist as a Young Person question. I kind of want from you to, by way of introduction, either you could tell us about an episode in your life, or simply just talk about how you came to doing what you do. But it could be just an episode. It could be something you yourself witnessed, or your parent witnessed in you and told you about it later. But if you had to give a brief portrait of yourself as an artist, or just becoming an artist, you know, or whatever it is that you're doing. Chadia, were you selling lemonade? Whatever you were doing. That sounds very American, by the way. Maybe were you selling tamarind juice, etc., etc. Or were you publishing, you know, your little scripts, whatever. I just want each of you, and I guess I'll call on you to give it some order in the way I see you, to give us a portrait of it. I want our audience to get a sense of maybe what that kind of thing looks like or feels like. Chadia, you're the first on my screen, incidentally. So coming from Ghana, let's hear from Chadia.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. It's evening on my end, but good afternoon to everyone. So I would say I started off more of an artist than an entrepreneur. I play a couple of instruments. I play the keys, wrote music, went to Trinidad and Tobago to do my undergrad at St. Augustine, did a lot of worship for a lot of teams over there. But I had an incident in studying international relations. I had an incident that just made me come to the realization that I don't really want to be a broke artist, to be quite honest. And so it's the truth. I didn't really want to be a broke artist. I didn't see myself as good enough to be one of the greats. I mean, people have their perceptions of what I can and cannot do, but ultimately you are the one who have to believe that you can do it. And so I didn't see myself as great enough. And so I ventured into the business end of things, creating platforms for myself and other people to be able to tell their stories. But I started off as an artist. I think in every facet, as a writer, as a musician, I think I understand all of the facets of the business. And so I've now ventured into creating platforms for people to do what we do, which is to tell stories.
Thank you very much. And I'm now reaching the point of not wanting to be a broke artist. So I'm kind of lagging behind you. But I guarantee you I will no longer be broke. One thing I wanted to add before I go to our next panelist is part of the inspiration for this panel is the man himself, Derek Walcott, who I wanted to tap into that part of his life where he was going out. I remember reading once that when he got to New York on a Rockefeller fellowship, he was at first terrified by the city. And I think he did not even finish the fellowship. He returned to the Caribbean, because how it could hit our sensibilities sometimes to be in a strange place. But he eventually became a traveler and somebody who basically went into various societies and was respected there. So that is the aspect of him that I think I want to channel here in this panel. This is for our audience and also for you panelists to get a sense of where I was coming from with this. Asha, let's hear from you. An episode, something, the moment, the aha moment, whatever it is.
I'd say, I'm somebody, I kind of I focus on the, make it happen for yourself, but things happen for a reason kind of thing. So with that being said, it was I was in choir for the majority of my life at this point and was in piano longer than that. So by the time I got around to being introduced to rap in Form 1 by one of my friends, and the first rapper was Eminem, thankfully, I think that was a good example to start with.
Same.
Okay, that's what's up.
Yeah, we never even really talk about that. That's dope.
It just, I don't know, right off the bat, I just realized I had a thing for music and words, those two things, just really crafting words and seeing how you can mix match them and, twist them kind of thing. So by the time I got to Form 5, because I was a very academic student. I'd always taught my class and stuff, but I was not interested in anything I was doing at school, no subject. Don't get me wrong, I'd get good grades in them because I had to, but I was not interested at all. Music was the only thing I genuinely cared about. So by SALCC, it was pretty no-brainer, nah, this is what given I'm living in my mom's house, so I need to compromise and, do the SALCC and whatnot, but still, I knew, pretty early, this is what I want to do with my life.
Wonderful. And later we'll get into that because you also had the arts thing running in your family. So there's a part of the questions I'm going to ask that will probably touch on that. But yeah, thank you for that. Thank you for that. Yeah, not being interested. I probably went through that as well, scribbling in the back of class and being told, yeah. Anyway, I would see what I was told. Keo, let's hear from you.
Yeah, I feel in some form or fashion, we all had, similar experiences as far as that's concerned. For me, there was never really a eureka moment or anything where it's aha, it's music, it's this, it's that. I find I was always as a youth, just pretty crafty and creative and artistic. But it always was pretty fluid. It always kind of transcended and transitioned into different things. So even when I got into hip hop predominantly, I never I hated when people would call me a rapper or something like that, because I always tried my best to think outside of just the art form. Not to say that hip hop in itself as a genre was limiting, but I didn't want to limit myself to just that, and still don't. But as my journey kind of continues, that reoccurring theme is still there, where I just kind of go with the wave and follow the path that is set out for me in many ways. And it just always kind of comes down to the same creative platform, but it definitely takes different forms and fashions along the way. Yeah, man.
Yeah, completely understood. And that's touching on something I'm very interested in at the moment, I'm thinking a lot about a similar complaint by Kanye West, for example, and many artists now, in the idea of being kind of restricted to a particular, even in a creative environment, being restricted to a particular definition, a particular through words. It's amazing how words could kind of constantly insist on us remaining the same or staying in one box.
Exactly. And it's also interesting how like those parallels can be seen throughout society, throughout culture. Like there's always the notion of categorization, of trying to fit something into something that we could explain, something that we could understand, only because of our own limited understanding. You feel me? But I hope that, even this discussion can start to break some of them barriers.
Yep. Kanisha, what about you? Your aha moment when you wrote an epic at the age of 5?
First of all, thank you, Vlad, for convening us. Ko, Chadia, Asha, lovely to be among you. And of course, to all the people at SALCC. I don't, I would not offer a kind of originating moment, except to perhaps bring myself into what has already been established, I suppose, about us as a people, as a Caribbean people, perhaps, that we don't have any fealty to silos. I from Jackmel out in the village, I perhaps was born into an epic. So I didn't have to write one at 5 years old. My grandmother was a wicked storyteller, just a wonderful, brilliant, generous human being who was always singing and telling stories and such. And my mother was also a theater actress. In her own right, she was brilliant. She's actually the first Lawenque I'll certainly see, history-making moment there. And I was on stage with her for that. So I was always, I suppose, in an environment of rich artistic expression, and my appreciation for growing up in a place where art happens everywhere and it's not relegated to any high tower is really part and parcel of what I carry with me. And certainly I have Derek Walcott as a guide and teacher. We studied his plays, none of his poems, incidentally, in high school and secondary school. And I applied to SALCC and didn't get in because I failed math, right? And so here I am on this side of that history. So
the full discussion is available on the YouTube page of the Government of St. Lucia. Be sure to watch. And as we end, let me just remind you of a few dates. The college will host their annual entrance exam in mathematics and English for secondary school students who have not had CSEC results. And that exam will take place on April 28th. You must register, however, by April 17th. The examination will be hosted on the Mon campus and the South campus. Our website will have more details. And finally, begin your journey with us by applying at salcc.edu.lc to do one of our 50 unique programs. The deadline for applications is April 30th. Continue to stay tuned to SALCC Updates. Be sure to join us next week, Wednesday. Continue to stay safe.